be here in San Diego again, and I want to thank all of you for being here. I don't know who that handsome dude is there. Sort of a George Hamilton skin tone going on. By the way, I was the best man. There was a groom on the other side. But I photoshopped him right out of the picture. The picture's a little fuzzy, but after thinking about it, that whole decade was a little fuzzy. I have a couple of things to talk to you about today. And they're kind of related themes. They're both about staying tuned. And the first part of this was instigated by something that happened earlier this month, one of the science calls. I hope you all tune in for those when they happen. The one that happened earlier this month was two distributors, Skip Campbell and Yandi Nettles, emceed by Ben Seaman. And when I listened to that call, I was just absolutely struck by how well done it was. If you haven't heard it, I urge you to go to the website and listen to it. What they presented was firsthand, very personal views of what makes Protandim different and how each of you can go about using that information to get that message across to the people with whom you speak. It emphasized very, very strongly the value and the uniqueness of our peer-reviewed science. And several things came to light and really struck me during that presentation. And I thought, again, at the risk of being redundant, I didn't want to take anything away from the excellent job they did. One limitation was that it was an audio presentation, so they couldn't use visual aids. And I'm going to just re-emphasize some of the things that Skip and Don covered with a little bit of visual enhancement for you. And I hope you take this right to heart and use it, because there's some very powerful tools available to you. And I want to make sure that you understand exactly what they mean and exactly what you can do with them. So the first part of this is stay tuned to LifeVantage. Stay tuned to this company. Why is that so important with this particular product? This product is different from many other products that are sold similarly. One of the earliest MLM products was from Tupperware. And you can pick up a Tupperware bowl with a snap-on lid, and it doesn't take you long to realize exactly what that is, how it works, and what it may mean in your life. And Tupperware literally changed the way most all of us do things. It was a really useful product, but one that's very easy to get your arms around. Protandim, on the other hand, is at the other end of the spectrum. It's a complicated product. If you haven't already figured that out, you will soon. And it's also a product that is not self-evident at the beginning. 5 years ago, my view of what Protandim is, what it does, was very different from my view today. In fact, my view today is very different from my view last week. And I'll point out how that changed. This is a changing canvas, and it's going to take some work on your part to keep up, just as it takes a lot of work on my part to keep up. So that's why staying tuned to the new information that comes to light is so important with this product in particular. The question that was raised in the science call was, what distinguishes Protandim from other products? And you've already heard this today from a couple of speakers, and it's worth reiterating and re-emphasizing. One of the major distinguishing features of Protandim is the peer-reviewed published science. And, you know, I have grown up literally for the past 40 years of my life dealing with the peer review process. And so to me, it's second nature. I don't even think about what those two words mean. But about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, I got an email from Ben Seaman. And he said, someone asked me, what does peer review really mean? And he wanted me to just explain it to him. And I sent him an email that had this text, and I don't expect you to read all that, too many words. That's more for me. But I explained in detail what those two words, peer-reviewed, really means. When scientists do a study, they write a manuscript describing it, and that manuscript is submitted to a journal for possible publication. And I say possible because you're by no means assured that your manuscript is ever going to be published in a reputable peer-reviewed journal. The journal editor selects 2 or 3 academic scientists who are well qualified to judge the quality of the work and the soundness of the conclusions that are drawn. Usually, they are leaders or at least well-known contributors to the field of the science that's being submitted. They act as anonymous reviewers of the work. They're free to question anything and everything about that work. They're free to ask you to do additional experimentation. That frequently happens. They're free to question your conclusions. They're free to question your statistical analysis. This is scrutiny of the highest degree. The author must then respond to that critique from each of these reviewers until all their concerns are met. Sometimes that process takes 4, 5, 6 months, occasionally even longer. It can go back and forth a couple of times between the authors and the reviewers. The reviewers are anonymous to each other as well as to the authors, but they do get to see each other's comments. And often what one reviewer says, maybe in the first round, will be picked up by a second reviewer in the second round. And this thing goes back and forth until all the questions are settled and everyone involved agrees this is a sound, well-done study. It takes a while just to describe that process, and trust me, it takes a long time to get through that process. In some journals, only 5 or 10% of the papers that are submitted to that journal are ultimately accepted and published. That's how rigorous the process is. And that's why peer-reviewed articles in reputable journals are much more reliable than something you Google from the internet, something you find on a blog that could be put up by absolutely any person on the planet with no review at all. That's why peer-reviewed articles are more reliable, more informative, and more dependable than what a company may publish itself on its own website. There's no peer review there. A company can say virtually anything unless it flagrantly violates a law, and then it might be taken off. Right? So peer-reviewed published papers really mean a lot. One of your most powerful tools and your single most informative resource is PubMed.gov. And again, this was talked about by Gandhi Nettles extensively, how he uses this tool. And I would really like for all of you to get familiar with this. There are 10 characters to type in, PubMed.gov, all right? You type that in your browser, and what comes up is a screen that looks like this. It's just like a Google search. The difference is, this is not searching everything that anybody and his neighbor has posted on the internet. This is searching the peer-reviewed, published biomedical literature, not just from this nation, but from the entire planet. Every journal that meets the qualifications, that conducts peer-reviewed publication of biomedical research, is included in this database. that's run by the National Library of Medicine of the United States of America. PubMed.gov is your tax dollars at work, and it's probably one of the most efficient and useful uses of your tax dollars. there are many, but this is up there. And it's an outstanding contribution of this country to the well-being of the entire planet, right? It works just like Google. So if you go bring up PubMed and you type in the search field something like Protandim, and you hit enter, what you see is all of the publications specifically discussing Protandim in the published peer-reviewed biomedical literature. And you might expect there would be hundreds because you may not have a feel for how this thing works. 6 is a very substantial number for where we are and how long we've been at this. Let me tell you, if you'd done this search 1 year ago, there were 3. Right? So in the last year, this has doubled. There's a 7th waiting in the wings, and I hope soon you'll see a 7th paper there. These are independently funded for the most part. The first couple were funded by the company, and everything after that has been independent, funded by private agencies such as Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy, such as the American Heart Association, and from federal funding, such as the National Institutes of Health. If you click on any one of those publications, what you see is the entire abstract, all right? And if you see the icon in the upper right of this screen, it says free full text PDF file, a reprint format of this paper. Again, that icon always appears if the research was funded, at least in part, by federal money. That is, your tax dollars also supported, in some part, this study on the effect of Protandim on Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Because your tax dollars paid for it, you're entitled to download the full text research in a PDF file. And all 6 of the papers shown here have those downloadable PDF files available. If you go back to the initial screen and you type in, let's say, oxidative stress, you would find 81,000 hits. All right, that's a lot of research on oxidative stress. Protandim is aimed at reducing oxidative stress.